Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Alan's Viewpoints. Uh, Stumbled across this real quick this evening and figured I'd put this in and throw this up real quick. But we have a little bit of a change in what's happening, and here comes the news. So, Trump now grants total authorization to ICE agents to protect themselves after violent California clashes. Oh, come on. There we go. Uh, Federal immigration officers face rocks, bricks while conducting enforcement operations at cannabis farms. And I'm sorry, when as soon as they picked up a rock and threw the window, a rock through the rock through the window of the van, somebody should have been out handcuffing that guy and throwing him back in the van because it is not civil. That's not civil. I understand that you're not happy about the laws being enforced, but these laws have been on the books for many years. It's not like the laws for immigration were created yesterday. They were created years ago. The difference is that now you have a president who's authorized to enforce the laws of the nation, and that is via this Constitution. The judges are supposed to rule whether those laws are legal or not and whether they follow the Constitution. And as long as they do, then the president has to enforce them. It is his job to enforce the laws. These laws have been here for a long time. So, President Trump on Friday said he has given federal immigration agents total authorization to protect themselves after clashes with protesters during an enforcement operation at a California cannabis farm. Trump was traveling to Washington from Texas, where he toured the region where devastating floods have left at least 120 dead, and he penned a lengthy post in Truth Social about the violence against U.S. Immigration Customs Enforcement, ICE agents. I'm on my way back from Texas, watching in disbelief the thugs violently throwing rocks and bricks at ICE officers while they're moving down the roadway in their car or official vehicles. Tremendous damage was done to these brand new vehicles. I know the fact that the officers are having a hard time allowing this to happen, and it shows total disrespect for the law. And I'll tell you that what actually does is it proves that the officers have an awful lot of restraint because they let this happen. They could have gone after and stopped it. So, Union says farm worker died after ICE raid that uncovered underage laborers. Note how they worked that. Notice how they worded that. Because Newsom's Donors Cannabis Farm under federal investigation for child labor laws violations. So we had underage minors working, underage kids working the fields on a cannabis farm. Think about that. Is this how people in the United States want to be known? That, oh, don't worry, we just use the illegals to take care of labor that people don't want to do. This is work that people won't do. Well, first of all, people that might do some of this work are locked away in the projects into areas of cities where they can't get out of because they're trapped by the welfare policies of this nation. And that's a topic that we can figure out how to solve. So, this is crazy. Union says farm worker died after ICE raid that uncovered underage laborers. Union officials announced a farm worker had died after they said he was injured during an immigration enforcement raid. Who injured him? Would be my first question. Was it ICE? Did he get hit by a car? Or was he hit by one of the bullets from the protester that was shooting, which is probably most likely the case. So not only was the person shooting at the officers, he's going to end up being wanted for murder. Tragically, so the union officials announced farm worker had died after they said he was injured during an immigration enforcement raid on a California cannabis farm. We tragically can confirm that the farm worker has died of injuries they sustained as a result of yesterday's immigration act. On Thursday, protesters clashed with officials or authorities as federal immigration agents conducted raids on the Glass House Farms. The names of these places. In Camarillo, and other site in Carpentina. Carpentina, I think is how it is. Video footage showed authorities using tear gas to disperse the crowd. They didn't have much of a choice. Said that the 10 illegal migrant workers, so it's 10 minors, were on the farm, 8 of them unaccompanied. So mom and dad are home in Mexico or wherever. They're here. They are slaves. They were sold into slavery. Either their family sold them into slavery or they were taken. And if they were taken by the cartels and brought here. The purpose was they could sell them into slavery. And this is California, Newsom's California. Yep. So it doesn't say, it says, decried the operation, saying workers were critically injured during what they described as chaotic raids, and noted other workers, including U.S. citizens, remained totally unaccounted for. Right. At this point in time, I no longer believe that. If this worker did unfortunately pass away, and God rest his soul if he did, and I hope that he didn't. It says, these violent and cruel federal actions terrorize American communities, disrupt the American food supply chain, threaten lives, and separate families. It said in there, this is the union. So the union wants illegals because they know they have cheap slave labor. There's no other way to put it. So your union that's supposedly fighting for you to help you get better pay, do whatever, wants the illegals to help do all this. There's no city, state, federal district where it's legal to terrorize or detain people for being brown, working in agriculture. No. They're being detained because they do not have U.S. citizenship, and they broke the law coming across. And it's lucky that they didn't just go to jail for 6 months and then deported. Many of them are going to get lucky that they just get deported. That's it. They'll be sent home. They will have made their money. They will have done what they did. But if you listen to many of these people, they come across, they don't want to assimilate. They don't want to become Americans. They want to stay where they're at. Unfortunately, it doesn't give any more details on what's happened here. But what's happening against ICE is not called for. And again, I'm going to preach this is about civility, folks. The president has the right to enforce the laws of the land. That's his job. His number one job is to enforce the laws of the land. And how do you can't enforce the laws of the land if the courts are saying you can't enforce the laws of the land. Well, why do we have any laws then? We shouldn't have 104,000 pages of regulations tying us down. But then what is it? Then it becomes first come, first serve for everything. How do you think businesses would get away? You know, you do have to have some regulations, but you don't want the regulations stacked against the little businesses. You, you actually need to figure out how to flip that. But the regulations don't work that way. The regulations we have in the United States works against the little guy and for the big guy. So we have to figure out how we reduce the number of regulations we have and free up the greatest thing that we have, the greatest resource we have in the United States, small businesses. But this is nuts. ICE agents and police officers having rocks thrown at them, not called for. We need civility, and we need to understand that this has to be done civilly. And we got to find a way of helping the president. I'm sorry, but these people need to go home and back to their home country. We can figure out, once they're gone, we can figure out a guest worker program that does work. But there's no good current one. H-1B1. H-1B1 for bringing in technical workers. Great. So we bring in people from India to do technical work for businesses. We pay them $60,000 a year to do the job that the American that was doing it was being paid $85,000 to $90,000 a year. So we bring them in for less money because we can't find anybody that would do that in the United States. Yeah, we would. We have plenty of those people. But they're being undercut by the H-1B1 visas. You want an H-1B1 visa? My suggestion? That's fine. But that H-1B1 visa person gets paid 105 to 110% more than you would have paid the American worker. Sorry, that's the way it needs to be. And then you have to limit the number of H-1B1 visas are handled by. You know, there's a lot of technical workers out there. Been in the tech industry for 4 decades now. Actually, 4 plus. 60 years old, and I've been doing this for more than 40 years. That's crazy. But that's life as a programmer. It's where I started anyway. But anyway, this was about the crazy things that are happening. Again, this has to do with civility. None of this needs to happen the way it's happening, and that's my opinion. Anyway, hope you like this. Please like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, and I'll see you on the next one.